Okay, let's start. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're tuning in from. Welcome to the Regional Challenge Fund's webinar on integrating sustainability considerations and standards for a just green transition. Before we start with the program for today, I would like to give the word to our colleague Alexandra, technical moderator, to briefly share some useful tips for our best possible online experience today.
Thank you, Jelena. Dear attendees, to have a smooth webinar experience, please follow this guide. To turn on interpretation, click the globe icon in the Zoom toolbar at the bottom of your screen and choose your preferred language. To ask questions in written form, please use the Q&A option in the Zoom toolbar. To reach the technical support, if you are experiencing technical issues, please use the chat option. Thank you for your attention. Enjoy the webinar.
Thank you, Alexandra. We move on now with a few words about the Regional Challenge Fund. As most of you may know, RCF is a multi-donor funding facility that invests in equipment and infrastructure for cooperative or dual training projects designed by vocational training institutes and enterprises in partnership. Funds deployed by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Development and Cooperation and the 𝗧𝗫𝗃𝗃 Swiss Development Corporation that are mandated to KfW, German Development Bank, implements a chamber investment forum of the Western Balkans 6, but day-to-day operations are managed by Fund Management Unit. Now I hand over to Mr. Frieder Wermann, team leader of the Fund Management Unit, to give us a few welcoming words. Frieder, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Jelena. And yeah, good morning and welcome to all panelists and participants, also from my side. Yeah, a brief introductory remark from my side, maybe, with regard to the seminar or the webinar as we're having it right now. It connects with similar activities and events we had earlier in our project cycle, focusing usually on cooperative training and dual education, as the main focus of the RCF. We also include from time to time thematical aspects into our events. And in particular, this relates to just transition and green transformation, gender equality, and regional aspects of the VET provision. And in this context, also the webinar is taking place here today. The RCF is committed as part of the German cooperation and the Swiss cooperation to green transition topics. And in this context, we've also included some of the elements in our application process. Those who have participated in calls are familiar with it and see that in some of our ambition criteria, we have the green aspects covered as well as the gender aspect. Through our investments, we as well finance equipments which contribute hopefully to the to efficiency increase in terms of energy in the schools and companies, and also some of our investments in infrastructure in workshops are designed to reduce the energy consumption in those schools. As I mentioned, it is not a main focus of the RCF, so we are a corporate training and dual education project, but we are very glad that among the training courses that we are financing right now, there are as well a few that relate to energy efficiency, like renewable energy technicians. We have experts for the installation of photovoltaic and solar panels, and here and there as well some organic farming as part of the training courses. All small steps towards the big goal of the green transition, which is as well key and central to the Western Balkan region as a whole, has been defined as well by the chiefs of government at some point in time. So we're fitting into this context with our seminars and activities here as well. I think as a rough introduction, that should be it. I will hand over to Jelena and wish everybody a fruitful, hopefully as well, I'm quite sure informative webinar with our panelists. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Frieder. Beside Frieder and myself, today with us as co-hosts, we have my colleagues, regional coordinators from Economies of the Western Balkans 6. I'm sure that you already know them. It's Renato, Sven, Biljana, and Vesa. And also our colleague Masha is here with us today. As many of you are aware, the global movement toward greener economies is accelerating. And we recognize this imperative for businesses, governments, and educational institutions to work together to ensure this transition is both just and inclusive. Today's discussions will delve into some critical areas around integrating sustainability standards, adopting best practices, and learning from successful examples. Our esteemed speakers will guide us through various aspects of this topic. Ms. Prabha Davala, Sustainability Management Expert from IPC, International Project Consult from Germany, will speak on the implications of integrating sustainability standards like ISO, EMAS, and CBAM, especially for aspiring businesses navigating the EU single market. Thank you, Prabha, for joining us. Tina Šarić, Director of the Education Reform Initiative for Southeast Europe, REC, will present why and how this regional organization supports environmental sustainability. Ms. Ermelinda Mahmutaj, an expert in sustainable development and the author of Handbook Education for Sustainable Development, How to Improve Environmental Performance in Schools, will share her insights on how sustainable practices can be implemented effectively in organizational setting. We are delighted to have such a diverse audience today, including enterprises, vocational training institutions, donors, and partners, all coming together to explore how we can collectively contribute to a more sustainable and equitable green transition. Throughout the session, we encourage you to ask questions, share your thoughts, and engage with our speakers. You can use, as Alexandra mentioned, question and answer function on Zoom. And we'll be sure to address as many of your queries as possible during the panel discussion, either live or in chat. And before we start with our presenters, I just wanted to share a sneak peek and to show whom do we have around. We have already 161 participants, 162 as I speak, and the number keeps increasing, joining from all around the region. And you were kind enough to provide us with your answers on how do you already implement some sustainability practices in your organization. So just to get to know each other and to see who's around behind this screen, let us see some answers. We asked you about following practices. And so we can see that the most answers goes to digitalization as a method to reduce paper use by adopting digital tools and platforms. But we also see there's quite some answers. 124 go to sustainable curriculum and integrating sustainability concepts in the regular education of students. We see there's some room for improvement when it comes to encouraging sustainable transportation, sustainable procurement, or sustainable reporting. So I'm sure that our dear speakers will today also reflect these important aspects of sustainability. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Prabha. I already mentioned that she's working at IPC. She's expert in greenhouse gas accounting, sustainability reporting, but also renewable technologies, environment management systems. And she worked with IPC's financial sector clients in Asia, Europe, and Africa. So Prabha, we're excited to have you here with us today. Let's dive in, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jelena, and pleasure to be here. Welcome all. I would now share my screen, and if you can confirm, you can hear me well, and also I will put it in the... Can you see my presentation?
This is technical support. Yes, Prabha, we can see your presentation. You may continue.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I mean, starting with the agenda for today that I have planned for the next 15 to 20 minutes. So we start with the topic of green transition, what it means and why is it critical for addressing climate change and environmental challenges. Then we move on to the regulatory landscape around EU and how it affects the business strategies around green transition and adopting green. And finally, we end with exploring or touching upon the implications, which also means the challenges it brings to the businesses, and on the other hand, the opportunities that businesses have due to this changing landscape. So first and foremost, very briefly, what green transition exactly means. Jelena mentioned we are aware the changes around us in terms of climate, we cannot ignore it. So green transition is not just really a policy choice for us, but it is becoming a necessity to address climate emergency, environmental degradation, and loss of biodiversity. So the aim is here to create a more sustainable, just, low emission and fair economy. And the three pillars, if you will, here are transformation across sectors. So this is across all the economic sectors from manufacturing to agriculture. And the idea is to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions and move towards a more resource efficient and circular economy. So this means obviously technological upgradation, but also rewiring on how we use resources, promoting recycling, and also decoupling economic growth from emissions. Second is obviously coordinated regional action. So a regional approach is essential to prevent carbon leakage. So we know that some businesses, they are based in countries where the regulations are quite strict. And when such transition happens, the knee-jerk reaction here is to move gradually to regions with lower regulated environment. So coordinated efforts here to ensure that the green transition doesn't create uneven competition is essential. And finally, global cooperation. So international collaboration is key, especially between EU and the neighboring countries. And all this is, the objective here is to create a climate neutral EU, which is also the overarching objective by 2050. So ensuring that both environmental and economic goals are achieved together. So with that background, we very swiftly move to our first poll, and I would like Alexandra, please, can you have the poll question on the screen, please?
Yes, Prabha. Poll number 1 is launched. The question is, what is the primary objective of the green transition in the EU? Enhancing digital infrastructure across member states, expanding urban development and industrialization across the EU, or achieving climate neutrality by 2050? This is a single choice answer, so please choose one. Okay, we can see many answers coming through. We will just leave it there for 10 more seconds. Okay, we will end the poll now and share the results. Prabha, you may take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandra. So yes, 84% has the correct answer here, which is achieving climate neutrality by 2050, which is the overarching objectives. But obviously, to achieve this, there are several things that you need to do, and digitization is one of them. But the correct answer here, in terms of the primary objective, is achieving climate neutrality by 2050. So with that, we go to the next section of my presentation, which is looking at the regulatory landscape, which is driving green transition. As I mentioned very briefly before, there are many and they go hand in hand. But given the time we have here today, we will touch upon the major ones. And the first one to start here is we've all heard about it. It is the EU Green Deal Industrial Plan, which is the heart of this climate neutrality target of the EU. And it has essentially 4 pillars. So EU Green Deal Industrial Plan essentially is the plan, is the EU strategy to drive industrial transformation in line with the climate goals. And the 4 pillars around it are first is simplifying the regulatory environment. So a key aspect here is to have more predictable, streamlined regulatory environment for businesses to navigate, because sometimes we all know it can be complex and information overload for some. Second is faster access to funding. So accelerating this, the plan promotes rapid investment in green technologies and clean tech production. Third is enhancing the necessary skills needed. So the major emphasis here is placed on developing the workforce needed for such a transition. And this includes training on new technologies, on upskilling workforce on the clean tech sector. And last but not least, facilitating fair trade. So ensuring that the global trade supports this green transition by adhering to principles of open market and fair competition. This is the first one that we have. The second one, maybe you're familiar with Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive or the CSRD, which at the moment is only applicable to large and listed enterprises in the EU. So micro enterprises are excluded. And these enterprises must now report on the environmental and social impacts. And this directive mandates the companies to disclose how they are handling sustainability, climate-related risks and opportunities. And this also enables investors and consumers to make more informed decisions. So it's pretty new. And so the reporting requirements come into force in the financial year of 2024. And the companies are expected to publish the first reports next year, following the ESRS, which is the European Sustainability Reporting Standards. Next, we have the CBAM, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. So CBAM ensures that imported goods reflect the carbon emissions produced during their manufacture. So this has implications for both companies importing from outside the EU and the companies that are exporting goods and goods inside the EU. So this essentially aims to level the playing field between EU producers who face stringent carbon pricing and the non-EU producers, which may not be subject to similar standards. And the initial sectors which are covered under CBAM are mentioned on the screen. So most of them are high energy intensive sectors. And gradually more sectors will be added here, and CBAM actually is in the transitional phase in October, since October 2023, and the first reporting is due in January 2024. So also in line with the CSRD 2024 is where a lot of action is happening. So a lot of regulations changing. And going forward, the full regime will take effect from next year onwards. And the regulations that we saw, the 3 regulations we saw, the major ones are, if you will, looking from outside, but also if you look inside out for businesses, what can they do in terms of easing this green transition for them, or adopting the green transition. So there are 2 major internal environment standards, and I think we are also touching upon this in the next presentation. So one of them is the Eco Management and Audit Scheme, which is EMAS, and it is quite popular within the EU. And the second one we have is the ISO 14001, which is an internationally renowned standards for environment management. So both of them actually are very similar in terms of their requirement, and they help organizations improve their environmental performance. As you can see on the screen, there are other ISO standards also, which are related to energy management, life cycle analysis, etc. But we are looking at, in terms of the environment management systems, these are the major standards we have. And by following them, organizations are required to develop a structured system to monitor, report, and reduce their environmental impact. And they can be applied to any type of organization, irrespective of the sector they are operating in, or irrespective of the size or the number of employees. So EMAS, as I said, is more European focused, and ISO is more international. But the cycle or the procedures are similar, but EMAS tends to be, it builds upon ISO 14001. And it has slightly stricter requirements in terms of accountability, transparency, and performance improvement, and also legal adherence. And these 2 standards help some sort of providing the businesses some sort of foundation for reporting and preparing them for CSRD reporting. So while EMAS supports environmental management and provides like a framework for sustainability reporting and aligns with ESRS, it does not help them fully satisfy the requirements of CSRD. Next, I have a typical cycle, an annual cycle, which is a systematic approach for environment management system, be it EMAS or ISO. So it is called the Plan, Do, Check, and Act cycle. And what you see here on the screen, especially in the gray, inside the gray circle, is the internal processes that a business or an organization follows during the course of a year, and with the objective to continuously improve year on year. So the vital framework here is for transitioning into green practices, adopting green practices, identifying areas for improvement in terms of energy consumption, and also other resources in general, be it water or waste generated, and help them maintain a long-term environmental performance and compliance with the stringent regulations. Yeah, so that brings us to my last section, which what are the implications of all these regulatory changes that is happening around us? What does it mean for me? What opportunities am I presented with, and what are the challenges at the same time? But before that, I have again a small poll for you here, and I would like Alexandra to take over, please.
Thank you, Prabha. Launching poll number 2. The question is, what challenges do businesses encounter when adjusting their supply chains for green transition? A. Implementing sustainable practices often involves initial investments in eco-friendly technologies and materials, which can raise operational costs. B. Businesses need to downgrade their technical equipment to ensure a green supply chain. C. Green transitions force companies to offer fewer products variants, limiting consumer choice. This is a ranking question, so please choose your priorities from 1 to 3. Questions are still coming, so we will wait a bit more. Okay, we can end the poll now and share the results. Prabha, you may overtake. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandra. So we will look into detail on this, on both challenges and opportunities in my next section. But the question, the correct answer actually here is the increase in operational costs that a business would face when adjusting their supply chain to adopt green transition. We also have one more question. Alexandra, if you'd like to bring that on screen, please.
Yes, Prabha, launching poll number 3. What opportunities arise for businesses when they adapt their supply chains to green transition? A. Shifting to a green supply chain increases dependency on non-renewable resources. B. Immediate increase in profits due to lower operational costs from green technologies. C. Green transitions can open up new business opportunities in markets that value sustainability. This is also a ranking question, so please choose your priorities.
Good to see that our audience is awake and everybody is clicking.
Answers still coming in. Okay, we can end the poll now and share the results. Prabha, you may overtake now. Thank you.
Thank you. So, opportunities for businesses when they adapt to supply their supply chains to green transition. The correct answer is the green transition opens up new business opportunities, and we look into the detail now in my next slides. So talking about challenges first that the businesses and their supply chain or value chain, tier 1, tier 2 suppliers are faced with due to these bombardment of regulatory changes that is happening. There are many, but we have summarized here a couple of the important ones for you on the slide now. So first and foremost, starting with the higher compliance cost and transition cost, and overall increase in the operational cost initially. So a transition to a sustainable practice would often require significant investments in new technologies, perhaps processes and materials, and this has upfront costs that the suppliers and the businesses face initially. The cost of greener machinery, more energy efficient machinery, or resource efficient machinery, and as well as the continuous costs that they're faced with in terms of certifications or audits. Second is operational disruption. So companies may experience delays or increased operational costs as they adapt slowly and gradually their supply chains and production processes to this green transition and shift to a more eco-friendly practice. Third is technical knowledge barriers. So many businesses, and especially the smaller ones, struggle with the technical expertise required to understand first the what is expected out of them, what is the implication for them, and then also implement the green technologies. And sometimes it also is an overload of information, and which can be a daunting task to process and digest. Fourth, we have the regulatory complexity. So there are different regulations across the EU member states, and the complexity of evolving rules add challenges for businesses. So understanding them, complying with multiple regulation at the same time, and sometimes they can be overlapping. So this can, takes some time and can be an initial burden to have. And last but not least, the bureaucratic hurdles. So they can be, lengthy permit procedures, extensive documentations related to the mandates that you have to complete, and complex approval requirements, audits, which can slow down the progress and divert resources from your core business area of operation, making it harder for business to adapt efficiently. But as we all know, there are two sides to the coin. So we also have opportunities here that green transition presents to businesses. First and foremost, we have access to new markets. So as more consumers and governments prioritize sustainable products, there is more awareness. Businesses that transition to greener practices can tap into this new market opportunities, and they can have a competitive advantage, first movers advantage over others. Secondly, we have innovation and technology adoption. So regulatory pressures drive innovation, forcing businesses in a way to develop new technologies and solutions and products that improve efficiency and competitiveness. This can lead to improved product offerings and streamlined processes. And they can also have, or this links to the previous point of access to new markets. So this also together leads to the ability to outpace competitors who are perhaps slower in this journey of green transformation. Next, energy saving or over time cost savings, I would say. So through initial investments in energy efficient machinery and technologies, although it may be high, businesses benefit from long-term reduction in operational costs. So there can be reduced energy consumption, which translates significantly into the savings on the utility bills. And if there are savings on other resources that the businesses use, they can be lower water bills or the materials that the company uses to make their products. Next is access to government incentives. So governments across the EU offer lucrative financial incentives in terms of grants, low interest loans, tax credits to help business navigate and adopt the green transition. And by leveraging these incentives, companies can offset the initial upfront costs of this adoption. And last but not least, enhancing the brand reputation. So embracing sustainability builds a positive public image of the company. So companies that align with green initiatives often attract customers that who value environmental responsibility and sustainability and are aware of these topics. And also internally, I think for the internal stakeholders, which are stakeholders and investors, which are also and also including employees here, it leads to employee satisfaction, and many workers nowadays seek to engage with socially responsible businesses. So that is my last point and my last slide here. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, Prabha, thanks for this presentation. It's been really full of very useful information and insights. And I liked when you mentioned that there's a regional aspect and the spillover effect, and that the countries need to work together. And I also like that you emphasized that EU Green Deal industrial plan is also about enhancing the necessary skills and promoting the growth of skills and skilled workers. So. And that also goes in hand with, with our topic for today. We have a question. If you are willing to take one question from the audience, we have a question. Is it considered the fact that maybe the green transition may create additional waste related to the replacement of old technologies with the new one?
Yes, I was actually just answering that, but it's a good question, but also we know that there is a substantial market for retrofits, right? So it is always not that you are completely replacing your production line or the machinery and it's going into waste. Sometimes there are tweaks that are done, retrofitting that is done so that the existing machinery can still be used, but it is compared to the previous one is more efficient.
Great, thanks. And I invite you to share your questions with Prabha through a question and answer section. And keeping in mind on our timing, we will move forward. And we already touched upon the topic of how can vocational education and training contribute to all these challenges that are there for businesses, as we saw from Prabha's presentation, many new standards, rules, technologies. And can learning about sustainability also support the green transition? Let's now move on to VET experts and Tina Šarić and Ermelinda Mahmutaj. Tina stands ready to support the most relevant topics in education, like quality assurance, occupational and qualification standards. Tina, can you really tell us why is this environmental sustainability of relevance from the perspective of REC?
Yes, of course, Jelena. Thank you very much for inviting me today, and thank you to all the participants who showed interest. So I will just very briefly say what is it that we do in our organization, Education Reform Initiative of Southeastern Europe, and then how that correlates to the Learning for Sustainable Development. So our organization is an international one and an intergovernmental one, which was established by the Ministers of Education from the 7 countries from Southeastern Europe. And we were mandated to enhance regional cooperation in education and training with the purpose of supporting national developments. And we are governed by the governing board, which is composed of the representatives from the Ministries of Education from our countries, and all the activities that we do at regional level are implemented through the Secretariat, which is seated in Belgrade. In alignment with our mandate, we have identified certain thematic priorities within the sector of education and training. So, for example, in pre-tertiary education, we deal with the vocational education and training and how to support its development towards modern and relevant VET. We also focus on quality assurance through external evaluation, and we contribute to teacher education and training developments. We're also active in the field of tertiary education, but this will not be the subject of the presentation, so I will not spend too much time talking about this. So how is it that we actually support those thematic priorities in pre-tertiary education. So mainly through projects, and one of our biggest projects is we abbreviated as 𝗚𝗏𝗃𝗧𝗃𝗃𝗏, which stands for Enhancements in the Quality of Education and Training in Southeastern Europe. This is the project which is funded by the Austrian Development Agency, which is implemented in 7 countries, 6 of the Western Balkans and Moldova. It will soon end on the 31st of March 2025, and we do that. We implement this project in cooperation with the most relevant actors from our region in this respect, and these are the VET agencies, qualification agencies, chambers of commerce, quality assurance agencies, and so on. And here we deal with modernization of vocational education and training, and also external evaluation of schools through the development of the most important deliverables, such as, for example, occupational standards at regional level, qualification standards at regional level. We have focused in this project on the sector of agriculture and metal processing. We also developed at regional level the teaching and learning material, work-based learning guidelines that have strong environmental components. We also developed regionally based training programs and implemented trainings. And also we have complemented these actions with some quality assurance aspects, such as, for example, standards of competences for external evaluation, trainings for external evaluators, different possibilities for exchange of practices, and peer learning. Another project that also helps us in implementing our activities in line with the thematic priorities is the RESET project, Renewable Energy Services in Education and Training. This one is funded by the German Development Corporation. It creates a part of a bigger regional project, which is dealing with decarbonization. And here we focus on 2 lines of action. The first one is to develop recommendations for TVT for VET decision makers to increase the renewable energy developments in VET. And the second one is more about raising awareness and promotion of renewable energy in VET. So why do we focus and how do we focus on environmental sustainability in our actions? So as we are strongly rooted in education and training, we recognize the roles of teachers in shaping the attitudes and behavior of students, including the attitudes regarding environmental sustainability. So we support the environmental sustainability in several ways. As I mentioned briefly earlier, our projects or our project results contain a very strong sustainable component. So in everything that we do, we make sure that we integrate environmental aspects in this, and also to make these environmental emphasis more visible, we have developed several separate publications as additional materials for teachers. For example, Education for Sustainable Development, How to Improve Environmental Performance of Schools, Environmental Aspects of Agriculture Technician, which is a compilation of relevant texts about environment, and Locksmith, which refers to environmental protection, safety, and protection at work. And today, these publications can be accessed through our websites. Here you have the links. And basically, this is just an introduction to the presentation that you will hear after me. This is the presentation of this publication that I just mentioned, Education for Sustainable Development, How to Improve Environmental Performance in Schools. This publication is the result of our project 𝗚𝗏𝗃𝗧𝗃𝗃𝗏. Its author is Ermelinda Mahmutaj, PhD, and she specifically designed this for us, for our purposes, with the goal to familiarize with the sustainable development goals and learning for sustainable development, and to present possible steps possible tools, possible instruments for schools and all the others who are involved in education to enhance learning for sustainable development. And with this, I will end my presentation and I will give the floor to Ermelinda. Thank you very much for your attention.
Yes, thanks, Tina. Let's move to Ermelinda. She's dialing in from Tirana this morning. And thanks, Ermelinda, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure to be here and in front of so many people interested to hear about the green transition and giving us the opportunity to present what we call a practical tool for educators on how to improve the performance, sustainable and environmental performance of schools. So without losing much time, I would like to give a short view of what is this handbook. So we designed and we discussed together with 𝗧𝗃𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀 that we wanted and we did it, a practical tool, a handy device, which will enable schools to integrate the components of education for sustainable developments. And it doesn't matter at what level the school starts, where the school is located, or what its socioeconomic and cultural environment is. So we developed this mainly for educators of primary and secondary educations and to all people which are related to educational services, but it can be handy and every one of us can find itself in using it. Together with the handbook, we also designed a visionary aim because we want through this tool to inspire as many of you to start a domino effect of green schools in the Western Balkans and the Republic of Moldova, and why not even wider. So what's the content and structure of the handbook? So it has 4 main chapters and sessions. So initially it gives an intro, short, concise, practical on sustainable development. So milestone, historical, what they are, what is Agenda 2020, and what are the principles of sustainabilities. And then it goes through sustainability and education. What are the concepts and strategies that make sustainable development and education together? Then we focus on schools, and this is our biggest chapter. It's because we see them as models for sustainability. We introduce here what are practical steps towards eco schools, and we focus on competencies for education, how to build the action plan so you really and the school can really start actions, and how we connect it with circular economy. So it's a full cycle which is given in really practical steps. And at the end, we have this chapter about school self-audit on raising a sustainable society. It's a checklist because with this chapter, we want each school, each company, each individual to see how their work is contributing outside the building where they work and operate. It's about a sustainable society. So about the structure of the handbook, in every chapter, in every session, what we do is that we introduce concepts which we have been careful to see that they are upgraded, that they are clear and provide really practical meaning and clear understanding. And then we accompany the concepts with advisory notes based on literature review and personal experiences, tips on how and what to consider when every school, educator, or individual starts, and steps and tools how to do what we introduces. So, okay. It has also what we consider a strength of the handbook is that it is replicable and adaptable to different units. So not only to schools, but to institutions, to companies, to individuals, to businesses, whoever wants to start this green transition. The narration axis of the handbook is connected, or it's based on a game which is called Pick It or Pick It Not. It's a game about green ethics, and its end goal of the game is for us to realize what is the value of our actions. So are they worth it? Where do they bring us? What do we get from them? what do we lose, what do we benefit, etc. So we believe that this game is a practical tool that we can use it in daily life decisions and in our future projections. So this is the narration axis of the entire handbook. So we start with its concept and we guide the reader through it. Also, what we paid a lot of attention in the handbook is the language of the handbook, the language of communication, because it's in the form of a dialogue with the reader. It provides space for the freedom of choice. This is very important because what matters to us is motivation and positive language to boost taking actions, and also to take actions from your reality. That's why the freedom of choice in all the tips and tricks that we give and tools that we give in the handbook are very important to us. So the first chapter really pays attention to provide a clear and up-to-date information on what is sustainable development and what are sustainable development goals, countries' commitments, and reporting, because we really believe that by providing and getting a clear and practical understanding of these sustainable frames really will boost motivation to start action and to understand them and to see what our role is in it. Also, what we play in the handbook is a really clear and summary frame of where the region stays in terms of the 2030 commitment of the agenda. So we give a nice presentation of the Agenda 2030, which is the Agenda for Sustainable Development endorsed by countries in 2015, which really states a commitment to end poverty, fight inequalities, and tackle climate change. And then how we commit towards the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and 169 targets to be achieved. This seems quite technical terminology or policy terminology, so we invite the reader to go through how the EU played an important role and a pivotal role in shaping the Agenda 2030, and how in 2019, the EU launched its policy package, which is the European Green Deal, tackling 12 of the Sustainable Development Goals with 12 initiatives. So how does it stand in political level, and how the EU Green Deal then expanded to the Western Balkan with a green agenda for the Western Balkan, because it's an EU ambition, and our countries of the Western Balkans, which are committed to and aspire to EU memberships, in 2020 in Sofia, they committed and signed the Sofia Declaration, which means they agreed to reform in order to address climate and environmental challenges in their countries. So these are the policy frames we introduce the reader of the handbook to see where the region stands and how our practical exercises and actions in our units, labor units, homes, families, can really rely on. So what we are contributing to and how we can really understand in practical terms and in practical actions all these wide policies. So then we make the connections about education for sustainable development, and we really stress that the difference and the strength of this tool is that it's all about a learning environment, which should be active participation and meaningful engagement to the learner. So, and our main focus of the handbooks, which is this chapter about schools as model for sustainability and introducing the steps, we really would like to put schools in the position that they practice what they preach. So the handbook embraces the whole school approach, which is a holistic and participation education philosophy aiming to enhance the potential of the school environment to function as a meaningful learning space. What we see as a strong point in this approach is that it can be implemented everywhere from every starting point, and it can implement it independently from what your actual situation and reality is. What we like about this approach is that it can really be adapted into a whole company approach, a whole government approach. And you can see the 3 pillars and adapt them to your reality. For school, we have sustainability in the curriculum that needs to be checked, environmental management, which is governance operations, and partnerships with local communities. So very similar to other units. In this chapter, we focus first on the competencies for educators so that they can be competent in education for sustainable development. And we focus a lot on how we can start in schools to develop an education for sustainable development action and strategy. We guide them into 4 main steps with sub-steps, and then we invite them and guide them how easily they can integrate their actions into the circular economy principles. So how does the information looks like in these slots, in these subsessions? There is a common logic of the information. So we are always in an introduction paragraph of the concept. We build question marks about it, and then we design logical connections and invite the reader to take the practical steps. And then we have always advisory notes that are arranged in these ways, which are really advisors taken from good practices, best practices, lessons learned from experiences of a lot of experts, a lot of other projects, and ourselves. And also we provide the practical steps by always providing references to good models. So we provide examples, and also we provide tools that have been proven to be effective. Always we refer to tools, and we have adapted these tools in order to be more practical for the schools. So in this sense, we really invested a lot to give a practical meaning and a practical functionality to the handbook. So this is what we like and where the action stands. So in developing the action and the strategy of the school. So this is where we should start. So the first step that we introduce is to create a green team. It can be in a school, it can be in a company, it can be in a business, it can be in a government unit, it can be everywhere, and how it should cooperate. And then we point to the initial environmental review, which means that the school needs to review the school policies to assess the level of sustainability which is in the school curricula, and then to review sustainability in school management and operations. The tool we choose here is the eco mapping, and which has 10 steps. And then we invite the school to build its monitoring school action plan, which should be monitored and upgraded. So we invite them to take action and provide them tools how to be sustainable and further upgrade their actions. So in this presentation, we will introduce you with 3 of our tools, which is the eco mapping and the action plan template and the self-audit checklist. We choose this because we think they are very practical and they are easy adaptable and can apply not only to schools, but also to any other unit. So review sustainability with eco mapping of schools. What is it and why we chose it? Eco mapping is designed by the eco consultant Heinz Werner Engel. And it's simple, it's visual, it's practical, and it scans the environmental situation of your organization of the school. So it provides you with a good information on good practices and problems. And also, it does not only define the issues, but it helps you to prioritize environmental problems and issues. It is easy to understand, allows participation and involvement of every people and staff, and it doesn't require a huge environmental expertise. It takes a time frame of 1 year. So you will see that there is quite a good alignment of our handbooks and practical steps to the environmental management system that Prabha presented. But what we did is we really simplified all the steps to integrate and to teach schools really to improve the environmental performance, and that to enable companies, businesses, organizations to take this handbook and to really advance with their environmental performance. So this is the eco mapping tool. It seems quite, it has been used also by companies for their EMAS. And it is simpling because first you have the space here to design the map. It is based on designing really the planimetry of your institution, of your company, of your school. And then it tells you, now that you have designed the planimetry of the institution, what do you want to check? What is the environmental theme you want to check? Water, soil, air, energy, waste, risk and safety, and for what purpose are you going to do it? So we start with a baseline assessment, and then we go with annual review, etc. And then we start designing, finding where we find problems. We design in our map here, we make these circles and straws dependently on how big or how strong, how serious, non-serious is our problem. And then it has a section which says, please clarify the environmental parameter. Where does it come from? Is it from behavior, from equipment, from process, or from know-how? And then it requires also to collect some data and then to make an identification or brainstorm actions that you would undertake to address the problem. So how it would look like if a team does it, it is like that. So you really design the map of your company, of your unit, and you identify problems there and responsibility for actions. Now, this is the tool that we have introduced, and then I would like the support of the technical assistants for the poll number 4 and 5.
Yes, Ermelinda. Let me share poll number 4. Okay. Question 1. Have you ever heard about eco mapping? This is a single choice answer. So yes or no. And the second question is, have you ever used it? Again, a single choice answer, yes or no. We will leave it here for a bit. Okay. And we will close poll number 4 and share the results. Sharing the results. Ermelinda, you can take over.
Okay, thank you. I am very happy to see that there is knowledge about the eco mapping, but also I am very happy to see that through this webinar, we are introducing it for the first time to a lot of participants. And after that, I would like to say that yes, companies can use it really in a professional way to do their internal audits for their environmental performance. School can do it to really practice what they preach, and organization can do it to improve environmental performance, but also families can do it. It seems technical, but what we do in order and what we did for schools is really to adapt it into a simplified templates for schools, which can be replicable to any company, business, organization that needs to start improving their environmental performance. Because what is important, and our message is that we need to start simple, and we always engage participants to start with waste management as a topic, because it's all about starting, about understanding, and about really understanding where we are with our actions in all this policy frame of green transitions. And this is the template of the action plan that we proposed. We also advise the reader to adapt to improve the action plan, but not to put less detail than the one that we have. So the action plan really will make the action possible, because based on the eco mapping and the theme that you have reviewed in your unit, company, organization, or school. You have identified the problem, and you as a team would like to discuss what is your objective towards the program and what are the expected outcomes you would like to achieve. What activities will you like to do? What are the indicators that you will measure? Then responsibility is very important. Having a team and taking responsibility is the basic for taking action with the green transition and improving environmental performance. And then you should put a deadline. Financial cost is very important when you prioritize from where to start with your green initiatives. And then actual results and suggest improvements are tables that will come after the first monitoring and upgrade of the action plan. So this is the tool that we provided them. And then we in the handbook, we introduced them with the circular economy as a system where materials never become waste. And we'll tell them that if you start applying the steps to become an eco school, then it requires extra work for your school, for your organization, and it does not require extra work and knowledge in order for you to be in line with circular economy principles, because through this principle, we are all invited to embrace and act with a zero waste approach. But if you start improving environmental performance, and if you use at least one of these tools that we are presenting in the handbook, you fully are complying and moving toward the circular economy practice. Then it is very important that the handbook closes the circle. It's not only about us. Sustainability is about a future generation. It's about a future way of living. So it's very important to expand it not only to our small or big teams inside our companies, but also to expand it to the society. So in the handbooks, we have taken into consideration the 9 principles of sustainable society proposed in the Caring for the Earth report. And then we designed this checklist that each of us can use even after this training. So in the first column, we have the sustainability principles, and we invite the teams to check. For example, for the school, we have designed some guiding questions. Does the school have no discharges in the environment, and especially in the neighborhood environment? And then we have these simple emojis to understand if your school is doing good or bad in this result or not taking actions at all, and some notes. So how it would work if we have sustainability principle number 1, respect and care for the community of life. So we invite school to say, does your school have no discharges, provide shelter and care for different form of life, build partnerships with environmentally friendly stakeholders? This is very crucial in sustainability, in taking actions. Community engagement, stakeholders engagement, working all together in partnerships. I was very happy to read in the first slide that was introduced by the organizers that community engagement was one of the participants' maybe most voted actions for sustainability. Also, change personal attitude and practice. So what are the questions that we advise in the checklist is, does the school play as a role model of ethics for living sustainably, have an open access communication and information line? So all indicators and questions that can really contribute to changing personal attitudes. We leave this checklist open to schools that by applying it to add their own questions and improve and enlarge, and we invite your companies to do the same. So we have the pool, and I know I will wrap up very soon.
Yes, thank you. Sharing the next poll. Question number 1. Have you as individual undertaken a green initiative? Yes or no? Single choice answer. And the second one is, would you like to develop it further and make it the starting point to improve the environmental performance of your company? Again, single choice, yes or no. Okay. Thank you. We're going to end the poll and share the results. Ermelinda, you may continue. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your yes, and thank you very much for your no's as a very honest responses. I highly appreciate it. And for me, it is important to see it, and also because in our handbook and in the logic that we would really like to focus in action in sustainable development performances is that it really is not all about ourselves, what we do as an individual, but it can be spread to the community in order for it to enhances and to be developed as a mindset of our generations and of the future ones. So I have chosen 2 success stories that help and prove this logic. So is the 𝗧𝗽𝗶𝗰𝗀 is a municipality in the outskirts of Paris. I had the chance to visit it, which has placed ecology at the core of its public policies. So it's a government institution. So the inspiration of what they do, it's not only their new neighborhoods that are all environmental friendly. So they use renewable energies, they use thermoisolation, noise isolation, they use green spaces everywhere. But it's how they started. This is the inspiration. It started by a small team in the kitchen. While they were doing their morning ritual coffee, they started to say, why don't we change our plastic cups with real cups in the office? We use them in our homes, we can use them here and we can wash them. Why don't we change the glasses? Why don't we change the spoons? So it started from the kitchen, it expanded in the environmental department, and it expanded within the policies of the municipality. And now it has expanded in their procurement, in their vision and urban development practices. So it all starts small from a small team, and it can be inspired and moved towards the entire municipality, to an entire nation, to an entire region. And this is a success story I would like to share from my offices because we are really proud of it. So we started in placing these 2 bins in Eden offices. In Eden Center, we started, they are 120 liters, and they can contain 120 crushed plastic bottles. So we decided to really separate waste in our office and contacted a recycling company to take them, but we are a small offices and we could never fill it in a proper time. So we put a notice in our apartment building inviting all our inhabitants to bring their waste, recyclable waste, every day to our office. And the end was that every month we would bring 2 times per month, we will bring 2 bins to the recycling company. So we will recycle or collect 480 liter plastic waste per month, which is 5,760 liter plastic waste per year. So we have contributed to less than 691,200 plastic bottles per year in the landfill. So this is it. And these are the small stories that can grow. We are aiming to invite the entire neighborhood, but it requires more than 2 bins. We are aware of it. And then I would like really to say that from RCF experience and trainings, we really have personal stories to share, that after we shared the handbook and the training we did, people came back with their reflections, and a lot of them started to take small individual initiatives, like collecting cans, separating waste. And I really hope that some of the no's in the last poll will turn into a yes soon. So the final words that we can say about the handbook, it's really the person, the educator, that is the engine for the practice to improve environmental performance in schools. That the handbook provides with information on what and why to do, and really elaborates more on the practical terms on how to do it by considering its school reality and composition. This is very important. It reminds to regularly check how the school environmental program is contributing to a sustainable society, and how to get the best from the use of this handbook. Start from where you feel comfortable. It is a cycle, not a linear process, and contact us if you feel stuck in every step of it. So thank you very much for your passion, and I'm sorry for taking a bit more than my time.
That's okay, Ermelinda. I'm sure that you provided very valuable insights. It was quite interesting hearing about the tools and also gaining some practical hands-on materials to work on after the webinar. And what I really loved is that you said that some tools were first used in businesses and then adapted for schools environment. So we see that this exchange between two sectors, it's really ongoing and vivid, and only through cooperation and mutual learning we can hope to achieve goals, very ambitious goals of green transition. The handbook that you presented raised a lot of interest, and we have so many questions in chat and Q&A. First one was technical. Maybe Tina can address it, whether translations will be available soon in local languages of the region.
Yes, I see there was a lot of questions and comments in the chat. So thank you, Ermelinda, for really doing a great job in presenting the publication. So it's already published on the RCF website and the website of the project, 𝗚𝗧𝗽𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃. I think you shared the links. Maybe you can share it once again. Now it is published in English. We are working on the translation and design, so it will be available in local languages as well. As for the use, as I mentioned in my presentation, in our trainings for teachers and company instructors, we have a dedicated session which is focusing on environmental issues. So we have trainings on environmental issues or aspects which are funded or which are based on the publication that Ermelinda presented. And the teachers who undergo our trainings will organize the sessions of transmitting this knowledge to their colleagues in their communities. So there will be this cascading effect. We also plan for the next round of trainings to have the training on environmental sustainability recorded. So we will create videos. We will publish those recordings on our website, so they will be available to anybody for further consultation and use. So
great.
I hope it will really be used across the region. Thank you.
Great, thanks. So knowing that translation in all local languages is coming soon, we can now delve into the next question. Is the eco-mapping voluntary action, or the project chooses schools which develop and implement green eco-action plans? And are there any schools or companies who already implement plans, so we can take a look? Ermelinda, Tina, do you want to address this question briefly?
I can address, and Tina can add about the project. So the eco mapping and the entire handbook is designed for educators to be useful. So it can be an individual choice, an institutional choice. So from how we see it is that everyone who is interested to take action can take it, can make it. In terms of how the project invests in, I will see. But our logic is that it can be useful and handy to everyone who wants it. Are there any schools or company who already implement plans, so we can take a look? We have already introduced it. I have no information about this yet because we are in the process of delivering it. It is a very short time. Yeah, yes. It's at an early stage, but certainly there are schools and companies who sporadically have undertaken one of the steps. What we provide with the handbook is a full circles, and to see practically that it doesn't take much to go full circle and how practical it can be. So this is what we really want to see.
I suggest we stay in touch, and we'll share good practice examples once you get to learn more with our audience and our awarded grantees and interested participants.
Yeah, I think there is another question. Has the model questionnaire been implemented with any vocational education and training providers so far? Yes, we have done training of trainers, and with them we have implemented or tested or worked out every questionnaire and every step or tool that we are providing in the handbook. And also it is very important to notice that 𝗚𝗏𝗧, before we finalize the handbook, 𝗚𝗏𝗧 did a consultation process with educators so that we really took also their perspectives in designing the final version to be more practical and handy.
Great. Thanks for clarifying that. Any other comments or questions? If no, yeah, maybe to repeat it, that we will share all presentations after the webinar, as many of you were interested in that. And you will also receive links that were included toward additional materials. Let me then just briefly, because I don't see any further questions, but if you may have them, please don't hesitate to write to us after the webinar. We're happy we had a chance today to learn about different aspects on environmental sustainability. And thank you all for joining and for staying until the end. I see that number is still quite high, even though we're a bit, yeah, we took a few more minutes than initially planned, but thank you for staying with us. I also use this opportunity to announce our next webinar in this autumn series, creating gender inclusive vocational education and training in economies for all. So save the date for November 15th at 2 o'clock Central European time. And we hope to see you also next time. I hope you get inspired to continue with sustainable practices in your respective organizations or to start some sustainable practices. Yeah, see you next time. Thanks again to all panelists and to all participants.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jelena. Bye.
Thank you, colleagues.